All right, all right. What is up, everybody? We are going.
Out here for just a couple minutes while everybody gets a chance to join. Um, yeah, we'll just talk a little bit amongst ourselves while we have a little bit of intro time. You can consider this intro music, if you will, except it won't be music.
I got
Dude,
instruments. We can make you music.
you want to make some music?
Yeah, we got ukuleles and mandolins
I got a
and
piano and a saxophone. I got a saxophone in my closet right here. I can bust them out.
we've
Dude,
got
I've got a
banjos,
tenor
guys. We
saxophone
can go
also. You got a
banjo if we need
banjo.
to.
Man, that's incredible. I have some improv chops, so if you want to, I can come
Do
up with
it.
something.
You'll be good. Good. A lot of
Yeah.
folks watch these recordings, the webinars. We record all of our webinars and we post them to our website. And a lot of folks do watch them after the fact. And a lot of folks have been kind of coming back to me and being like, love the podcast. And I'm like, yeah, it's a
Hey, all right.
podcast. So we should have
That's
intro
right.
music because it's a live
We should. I
podcast.
guess. Now I gotta like edit a whole intro video and everything.
There's no more webinars. They're just live podcasts.
Everything's a
Just live
podcast.
podcasts.
I'm surprised. You know that it's like that kind of ages somebody because if it was like a kid, a gen whatever, they'd be like, "I love your reels" or "I love your like."
Uh, Welcome to our Twitch stream, y'all.
Yeah, it is kind of like a Twitch stream.
Now we need usernames instead of actual first and last names.
I could just do Twitch. It violates all the data agreement. I could just do Twitch streams while I like audit stores. Like, look at this stock.
Live audit, live with your little floating guy, like live
Little
audit
bloody guy
aged
out there.
inventory. Look at this aged inventory.
Yeah, yeah. We found this new Zoom feature. You may see it today, which looks like this, where I could be like, look at that number. Look at that.
Can you believe this equation? That would
Uh,
be so interesting to like five people.
Right.
Well, welcome to our
LinkedIn Live.
TikTok,
They've been
everybody.
trying to push LinkedIn Live for a minute, right? Like, see what LinkedIn Live. We're going on LinkedIn Live right now,
That's
and we're
right.
live auditing a 7-store dispensaries aged inventory.
I just gotta say, LinkedIn Live is garbage. The functionality is such that like you'll see the LinkedIn Live post after the fact, but the comments that people are making at certain points in the conversation don't have time codes associated with them. So you just see the video and then a whole bunch of random disparate comments that have nothing to do with any of the content with which it's associated to. So yeah, it's kind of a mess.
And the
It's kind of
LinkedIn
a mess.
bots are out there in mass these days. It is a
It
mess.
is. It is.
It
It
is
is the
bots
internet
talking to
eating itself
bots.
on LinkedIn. That's right.
I'm kind of over the internet, y'all. Like it's just
He
AI.
says live from the internet.
That's right.
As
The
people's AI assistants start to join the chat, proving our point, I'm just like getting these chat pops up, and it's like, "Hi, I'm an AI assistant."
You're
Welcome,
right.
welcome to the pod, live pod, all everyone's AI
Yeah,
assistants.
yeah.
Yes.
Happy for you to
What's up,
join.
bots? Welcome to our
What's
TikTok.
up, bots? Welcome to the channel.
Just instead of saying what's up, chat, I'm gonna say what's up, bots. Speaking of chat, by the way, y'all, I just activated the chat for everybody. Feel free to chat in there rather than dropping questions in the Q&A. Alan, really cool that you play piano and improv. It sounds like we just need to get together like a little band. Let's try an improv cannabis software band. That sounds terrible. That sounds like the worst thing that anybody's ever proposed. I'll come up with better ideas from here on. So we're gonna go ahead and kick this off. I think we got enough people in here for now. Welcome everybody to the apparently now titled Happy Cabbage podcast. We are going to do a bit of a special episode today because unlike the previous episodes where we tend to just talk to buyers, today, we're actually going to do a deep dive into our product and talk to you about product lines specifically. This is a whole set of features. It sort of shapes the entire way the product works and shapes the way that the customers who are on our product follow workflows for doing better strain-based reordering and getting out of the nightmare of trying to reorder based on rotating strains. So, got a lot of cool stuff to show you today. If you've seen our webinars before, you know how this next part goes. Just consider this our opening credits, right? For those who have never heard of Happy Cabbage, I want to give you a quick synopsis on what we do and why we're here and what we're going to be showing you. So, the long and short of it is we help you stock what sells. And the real magic here is that spreadsheets suck. They just suck. They suck to work in. If you think spreadsheets suck, sound off in the comments. Let us know what you think about working in spreadsheets. We have never heard anyone be like, yay, I love my spreadsheet so much that I wish I could just continue working in it 40 hours a week. So what we're trying to do is help you as buyers, as retail managers, as CEOs of retail operations understand better what you need to plan on your menu, what you need to order, how you need to budget for your inventory, and most importantly, get that done very quickly. Um, we're helping you stock smarter and grow faster. The people who use Happy Cabbage are opening new doors, they're not closing them. And the reason why is because the amount of accuracy and speed with which our platform manages your SKU data, your POS data, allows you to identify overstocked inventory that you didn't realize was so overstocked or aging. Once we reduce that inventory by just showing you what you need to get off the shelves, that saves your retail operation $150,000 over 3 months per store. So for every door, that's $50,000 a month of overstocked inventory just sitting on your shelves while your buyer is spending their time banging their head against a spreadsheet for over 10 extra hours a week that they can save by using Happy Buyers. So it's fast, it's accurate, it saves you money. It also reduces your days of supply on hand by 40% down 17 days. It reduces your total SKUs down 11%, really focuses on what people are actually buying and what their demand is. And that's something we're going to be talking a lot about today when we get into product lines. Slow moving SKUs in particular, we reduce by 14%. So we get you down to those better products, faster turnover, leaner businesses. These are the customers we currently have, or a very small selection of the customers we currently have using Happy Buyers. All of these are very, very happy people. You should reach out to any of them and ask them what they think about using our tool, how much time they've saved, how much money they've saved, and how many stores they've opened since using Happy Buyers. And you'll get some good responses, I think. If you're on any of these 4 POS systems, good news, you can work on Happy Buyers. We're integrated with Dutchie, Blaze, FlowHub, and Trees. So some of the best in the biz. This is most of the retailers out there in the world. So if you're on these POSs, just holler at us and we can get you set up on a 14-day free trial. So you don't even have to take all of our word for it. You can just try it out with your live store data right now and actually save money at your store right now. Reduce inventory, make reordering decisions, get replenishment reports on what is out of stock on your sales floor. All of that is going to improve your sales, and we're going to give you 14 days of that for free just to show you that we really believe in our product and we believe in what it does. And if you're not ready to take that step and you just want to assess the damage, we can give you a free inventory audit. We'll show you exactly where your inventory is aging, where it's overstocked, where your discount percentage is maybe too high and your margins are too low, and help you save that money and make that cash impact right away. So we'll just show you, here's what you got going on. Here's what we can do for you. You want to jump in or not? And try the free trial. If you don't like us at the end of that, no harm, no foul. We can go on as friends. So that's what we wanted to talk to you about today. I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share here so Andrew and Danny can show you product lines and how product lines are critical and really at the core of how we help you save that money and speed up in your operations and your accuracy. In the meantime, I'm going to drop off and let these two guys run with it, but ask us questions along the way. We're going to do 15 minutes of Q&A at the end of this, maybe 10, depending on how long it takes us to get through this. Chat with us the whole way through. If you want to ask questions, you can do it in the chat or you can do it in the Q&A tool, which is the little question mark on your Zoom toolbar below. And then I will see you when we get to the Q&A.
Thanks, Brad. Hey, everybody. So for those who don't know, I'm Andrew. I'm the CEO of Happy Cabbage, founder of Happy Cabbage, and then joined here by Danny, who's our COO, head of product, and VP of excellence, I would say. I just added that new title for you, Danny. But the guy who takes the understanding of all of the spreadsheets that are out there in the world that buyers are using to come up with stockings and helping to translate that and turn it into our software product, essentially. So today we're going to be focusing on product lines and the concept of product lines that we have in our product and why we introduce them to our product and why they are an essential piece of getting correct amount of inventory at store. You have to be looking at your inventory through this lens or you will be ending up overstocked and potentially misbalancing your inventory as it relates to stocking across multiple stores as well. So first, what I'll start with is just like an understanding I think all of us have. 80% of cannabis products are strain based, right? When you're thinking of your flower, you have, your bubble gum, your Blue Dream, your Skywalker, your Gelato, your Pineapple Express, like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every time you're going back to a vendor that has these strain-based products, so your flower, your pre-rolls, your vapes, your concentrates, they're just giving you new strains, right? They're always developing new strains, new crossovers, new breeds, always increasing the potency, the terp profile, figuring out how to make weed better. But as a result, you're constantly dealing with a whole new set of products every single time that you do it when you are looking at the product base level. Now, the issue with this is that if you're trying to figure out how much to order, and you're saying, hey, I'm getting from this vendor net 30 terms, let's say. And what you want is you want to do an order that's going to match those net 30 terms, right? Because you don't want to order so much product that it takes over 30 days to sell, and therefore you can't actually pay back the vendor within 30 days, right? The problem with all these strains is that if you look at your last 30 days of sales in order to figure out how much you need to order, what you're going to see is all of this noise of, for, your Jeter infused pre-rolls, you're going to see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 different strains that you've sold through at that individual product, right? And the reality is if all you're doing is looking to see, okay, how much of my Jeter strains am I out of? And I'm going to request to restock all of them, you're going to end up overstocked. Right. And this is a universal thing that we're seeing in a lot of places. A lot of this is driven by just like the reporting that folks are getting back. They're getting back these reports that are saying I'm out of all these different strains. And then they're saying, okay, I just need to restock all of them, sending that off to the vendor or going off into LeafLink or something like that. And then overestimating the amount that they need. And I'll go into a bit like exactly how that happens. Well, what this leads to is too many strains, too big menus, cannibalization of sales from your better margin products, and then that then cascades into aging, which then cascades into needing to run all these expiring inventory discounts, puts your pressure on your cash flow. And fundamentally, when it comes down to the fact that like you need to be able to pay the vendor back within 30 days in order to stay healthy, delayed vendor payments, right? It deals with delayed vendor payments, which can eventually cascade down into some severe cash flow problems. So let's first go into how this is actually happening and why this happens, right? So when you actually pull out of your report, you look at your last 30 days of sales of your, Jeter pre-rolls, whatever it is, and you're seeing, okay, here are the 5 strains that I sold. And I sold, 2 units a day of the Blue Dream. I sold 2 units a day of the Northern Lights. I sold 2 units a day of the Gelato, and I sold 2 units a day of the Pineapple Express. You may assume from that, okay, I'm going to add them all up, and that would give me 8 units a day. And then I need 30 days of supply. So I'm going to take 8 units, I'm going to multiply it times 30, and I'm going to get 240. But in reality, what's happening over the last 30 days, last, 4 weeks, is you had the Blue Dream in stock in the front of house, and that sold 2 units a day through week 2. And then you had the Northern Lights in stock. And maybe in the beginning it didn't sell too much on a per day basis, but then it really shot up as you got low on the Blue Dream. And then you went back to the back of house and you brought in something else because you're like, oh man, I ran out of the Blue Dream. I got to put something else on the front of the house. And then you put on the Gelato and the same thing happens, right? The Gelato starts selling slowly and then ramps up to 2 units a day while you run out of the Northern Lights. And then you actually have the Pineapple Express. So on net, overall, throughout the entire Jeter 1 gram pre-roll, for example, you've only ever sold 2 units a day. But if you look at it on the strain basis and you add it up, you're going to order 4 times as much as you actually need. And the reality is, and we call this SKU cannibalization. The reality is that as consumers are coming in and they're looking for the Jeter 1 gram infused pre-rolls, and they're seeing the only thing you have available are the Blue Dream and the Northern Lights, or the Northern Lights and Gelato, or Gelato and Pineapple Express, they're going with what's available. But it doesn't mean that if you had all four on the shelf at the same time, you would sell 4 times the rate, right? And so this is ultimately the cause of what can lead to a lot of this orders restocking, right? Right now, oftentimes what folks are looking at is they're looking at that and they're saying, I'm out of stock of my Blue Dream, I'm out of stock of my Northern Lights, I'm out of stock of my Gelato, I'm out of stock of my Pineapple Express, and I need to order all of them. Instead, what you need to be asking and you need to be looking at is, how are the customers coming into the store deciding what to purchase? As they're deciding what to purchase and they're going up to the bud tender and they're saying, I'm looking for a sativa infused pre-roll. I'm looking for your best Jeters, right? So, Jeters definitely has some brand fans. I'm always ordering the Baby Jeter XLs. The reality is every single time that customer comes into the store, since you have different strains, they don't really have that much strain preference, right? Every once in a while, you'll get the connoisseur who's only coming in for the turtle pie. But most consumers, because already they're not used to the stability of strains, when they're coming in and talking to the bud tender, they're willing to take whatever strains are available within reason. Maybe they're looking at the potency between two of them. Maybe they're looking at the terps. Maybe they're looking at some just known sativa indica hybrid stuff. And the bud tender's not giving them, hey, we have 15 different strains to choose from. The bud tender's just telling them, here's the sativa, here's the indica, here's the hybrid, here's the highest potency one overall. And so what you need to make sure that you're ordering is at that level, at the level of that product line overall, as opposed to looking at every single strain as it's going out of stock and trying to reorder all of them. So the way you do that is you imagine the buckets of these products and the buckets that consumers want to purchase, right? That could be cheap 1 gram indica pre-rolls. It could be Jeter 1 gram indica pre-rolls, right? It could be all rosin vapes. It could be the Steezy rosin vapes versus the Raw Garden rosin vapes, right? Oftentimes people are constructing their menus by the brand, by the unit weights, and then by the subcategories. And that is a good bucket. But if you can kind of imagine these buckets, and then you imagine that that bucket is sitting in the back room and just has a bunch of products in it. And every time you're running out of stock in the front of house, someone's going into the back room, they're just putting their hand in, pulling it out, and just making sure they have it up into the front of house. Oftentimes, just like an indica sativa hybrid at whatever the product line is. What you want to be stocking is the correct level of that bucket. And what you want to be looking at is the sales velocity of that bucket. Not the sales velocity of every single individual strain in the bucket, but just the sales velocity of that bucket. And if you owe the brand money off that bucket and the amount that you sold of that bucket within 30 days, you want to make sure that you sold out the whole bucket within 30 days, right? And that's ultimately what we've implemented and what we're getting at, right? Now, like I was mentioning, the best way to determine these buckets, like the simplest way to determine these buckets, is your brand, your category, your subcategory, and your weight, right? This is often how the menus are constructed on the vendor side. This is often how menus are constructed on the retail side. This is normally when you're doing orders and you're talking to vendors and you're talking to distributors, like how you're actually ordering, right? And then overall, that is like a good just like starting baseline so that you make sure that you're not ordering every single strain that went out of stock within the bucket, but just looking at the bucket in of itself. There are instances in which people get more complex than that. There are instances in which people have designed their menus around bottom shelf, top shelf, mid shelf within a bucket. Whatever that bucket is, what you want to make sure is that you're modeling and you're looking at your sales velocity within those groups, not looking at your sales velocity lower than those groups. Now, a lot of times when we get at this, some folks are like, yeah, but like I want to make sure that I have a certain amount of depth. I want to make sure I have a certain number of strains. I I want to make sure that I have an indica sativa hybrid every time I have the bucket. I am concerned that if I just look at the bucket and I just look at my best performer, that I'm just going to get over concentrated in a single strain and that the variety will cause consumers to turn away. My Jeter fans aren't going to like that I only have one Jeter in stock. Okay. So just make sure that you have a target amount of strains per bucket. Again, monitor the sales velocity of the bucket. And then what you do is you then make sure, okay, I will, every time I go to restock, give the direction to the vendor. I need to have 5, 3, 2, however many it is that's good for your variety. But first, what you start of is I need 100 units for the bucket and I need them split across 5 strains, as opposed to saying within that bucket, here's how much I sold of every single strain, because again, you're going to calculate too much. And then here's how much I need overall. Now, a lot of folks have like caught up to this. I'm sure there's folks on the call who are like, yeah, I know this. Like I'm working on it. How do you deal with it? You're exporting the data out of the POS, you're dropping it into Excel, and you're building the pivot table, right? And that is a good way to start to get at the problem. I will say that what that process doesn't take into account, which is important, is that in and out of stock inventory room movement, which still matters, right? You can kind of gloss over it more, right? As long as you've maintained your front of house inventory consistently of that bucket level, like you can kind of cut some corners there. But at 30 stores, 15 stores, even 5 stores, right? It can get very difficult to manage this all through a spreadsheet. It can be very difficult to rely on the data that isn't being snapshot, data that isn't at the inventory room level. And for your very fast performing buckets that you are selling out of, particularly if you're already caught into the situation where you can't pay every vendor all the time. And so you have to prioritize vendor payments. And so you do end up running out of stock of certain things. Missing that can also miss how much you need overall, right? Which leads to the development of product lines in our solution, right? So again, what this came out of is looking at all the spreadsheets that we saw as folks were building these pivot tables, as folks were trying to figure this out, realizing the fundamental nature of this math, where you could be ordering 4 times as much as you need if you're not doing this correctly. And we see that all the time. All the time we're seeing aged inventory volumes in the hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. And when you dive into it, it's like every single strain has been attempted to be restocked, and that is the cause of all this issue. So you have to be doing this to get your stocking right. What we've done is we've taken that logic and implemented it into our technology, right? And implemented with speed and accuracy. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to pass it over to Danny and let Danny kind of show how it's represented in a tool, how we've kind of built this out, how we handle all the new products coming in and all these aspects of it. But the most important thing is, even if you're not trying to leverage a piece of software to do this, you will be overstocked if you are attempting to restock every single strain as it runs out of stock. So, Danny, without further ado, I'll pass it over to you to kind of dive into the product.
Stop the screen share. One thing we like to say that I hear a lot is people do think variety is important. Variety is important. Almost everybody we talk to has too many brands and too many SKUs on their menu, and you have to cut it back. And the financial performance of your stores will be better, even if it feels hard that one product that somebody comes in and buys one of every 45 days, like that hurts, those customers. And we always talk about those as like every buyer, every store has a story behind every one of those product purchases. But most of these stores have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of aging stories sitting around on their shelves about why that product was purchased, why that quantity was purchased. That's where you've got to mix the data in, right? You can have a couple of those, but when 20% of your inventory is that, you can't pay your bills, you can't pay your staff, can't pay your vendors, and it gets into this endless cycle. So this is happy buyers. Everybody's looking at the happy buyer screen here. I'm going to give you a quick overview and we're going to deep dive into the product line side. But we did get feedback from these webinars that we don't show the product enough, which is fun. We build this product, this is what we do for a living, so we like showing the product. We try to get buyers on so that you can hear it from end users and people that are doing the buying strategy at stores. But this one, we're going to spend more time in the actual Happy Buyers product, looking at what is a demo environment, but it is populated with anonymized real data. So everything you see in here is a real SKU, every run rate's real, every sale is real. What's the Law and Order disclaimer at the beginning? Like, any similarities to real stores, these are all fictional stores. Like, any similarities are unintentional. Whatever that, flash the doink doink.
Coincidental.
Dun, dun.
Thank you.
Dun,
Yeah,
dun.
give us that doink doink, please. Law and Order disclosure. When you log into Happy Buyers, first thing it does, and we've been building this up as kind of a dashboard, is gives you some quick links to things that you might want to look at. I want to come in. We're not talking about replenish to sales floor, although I love it. And it's a new report that can be automatically sent to your store managers every day to tell them things that are in back stock that are going phantom out of stock, meaning that you've got something in a vault, but nobody replenished on the sales floor. And those could be fast movers. That can be thousands of dollars a week in there. You can set that up and automatically email store managers that. You can find things like your Overstock products. We love this low profit one. This does some analysis automatically. That's like Pareto analysis, cut the bottom 20% by category, by store. You can click it and find that, and then work through things that are low profit in there. So we give you your quick links here, just giving you a kind of setting the stage of how you navigate the product. Our tabs are kind of laid out left and right, drilling into your inventory. So we start with inventory health, which starts at the store level. So I'm looking at a 5-store chain here spread out across a couple of states. I can see the high level KPIs, sales, profit, age inventory costs. You can see this customer, like I said, any similarities to real stores are imagined, but there's real data in here. This customer runs a tight ship. Look at their days on hand. This is real. You can get your store from 52 might be the average days on hand. We definitely see north of 30 almost every time we audit. You can get that down to 14. You should get that down. 2 inventory turns before you have to pay the vendor means you pocket 2 full cycles of profit before you pay that invoice. 14 days on hand is a fantastic target. Even if you target 14, you get it under 30, you're probably going to be a lot happier, right? Looking at store level margins, store level discounts, there's all kinds of good data in here. One of our favorite screens when we're doing a strategic kind of buying discussions and audits is the brand page, where you can look at brands flattened across all your stores. Even if your stores are on different point of sales here, we can merge a bunch of data and show it to you. We can look at brands by store, so I could dive right into one store and figure out which brands are paying the bills at that store. I love always comparing aged inventory cost to profit. That's a ratio that not enough people look at, which is the definition of being upside down financially with a brand. A lot of times there's 2 or 3 pages of brands when we're doing an audit, which is 30 plus brands, where your aged inventory holding cost exceeds your profit, which means you spent more on units that haven't moved in 60 days that are on the shelf than you made in the last 30 days from that brand. You need to look at that. You need to have hard conversations. We surface that. Hopefully you're seeing the speed here. We make this, insanely fast to get to really accurate summarized data in here. You can also trend all of these data, so you can go into a brand and see how they're doing monthly over time on all these KPIs, weekly. Really good data here to evaluate what's on your menu. And then we step down into product lines and then products. So this is what Andrew was talking about the whole time we were on, going through the kind of problem definition is, what is a product line? How do I want to define my buckets and look at my inventory, right? One awesome thing that we've done, because you can see here across a 5-store chain, there's almost 1,000 buckets that have been defined to group their inventory and accurately track how these things are moving. We let our AI, that we spent quite a bit of time training across hundreds and hundreds of stores we work with, walk your inventory for you. Most of these buckets that you're looking at were AI created. Our team along with your buying team, will also dial that in. We'll talk about the different types of buckets. Andrew kind of teased that, like a brand specific bucket versus maybe like a tiered kind of price tier bucket. I've got both set up in here, so we'll kind of show examples of both. You can run both. You can look at your inventory a couple different ways to get really, really interesting stats where maybe one of the buckets you don't want to buy on, but you just want to compare and you want KPIs to share with management on certain trends on, 1 gram disposables versus 510 carts, and you want to see how those trends are going. You can put those buckets in here and look at kind of subcategory buckets. But you'll see most of these, and kind of our default mode, go category, brand, weight, and then like a subclassifier, which would be like a 510 cart or a pod or a multi-pack of pre-rolls versus a single pre-roll. Those are the default buckets that our AI will walk through and create in your organization. And then you'll be able to come in here and look at things like in this prepackaged eighths here from a brand, how many of those do I sell a day, even when I've got 11 in stock, right? This is math that's challenging in a spreadsheet. So this is one of the first places that these spreadsheets start to fall apart, is even just getting to this number, which we make, less than a second to get in here, do a click, see how many you sold, see how many days on hand you have, talk about that depth, which I'll come back to, that Andrew said, which is all important here. You can see in this one, we've got a target depth and we're breaking out sativa indica hybrids. So we know, do we have the right mix that we're targeting when we're going to order? But even this number is tough to come up with. And it's tough to come up with because when you're running 11 strains in prepackaged eighths from a single brand, on Tuesday, one of those strains went out of stock. And on Wednesday, a different strain picked up the sales for it, right? And that just starts happening. You kind of saw that like ladder diagram that Andrew was showing about how those sales replace each other. Well, you have to look at, you can't just take the run rates of each of these and add them together. Because of how run rates are calculated. Run rates may drop out of stock days and they may do other smoothing in there. You need to look at this stuff hour by hour, what's in and out of stock in your vault, what was sellable on the sales floor. How is this group of products moving when the group is sellable? And then adding up at those points in time, how many were moving. This run rate is tough to get to, and this run rate is really hard to get accurate. A couple other layers that we can come back to if there's interest. We have things like blockout dates that come in. So if you're doing a pop-up, if you've got 420 coming up, if you've got, Thanksgiving holidays, you can tell us basically there's going to be an anomaly in sales. I've got a brand doing a pop-up and I expect those sales to pop off by 40%. What happens is every buyer then loads their mental model the week after that pop-up because your point of sale sales data says, oh, you moved 1,200 pre-rolls a week, so you should order 1,200. Well, if that was a 30% sales increase because of a big marketing push or, a concert you had or some kind of event or some kind of holiday, you don't want to order to that previous anomaly, which is going to show up in your run rate. You want it to smooth out and you want it to do a normal order when it goes back to normal, right? So there's things that stack into how do I get an accurate record of my velocity of these SKUs? And then when you start grouping SKUs, it just complicates it more and more. We do all that math for you. We know how many prepackaged eighths of this brand you move per day. Therefore, we know how many days you have in stock. We know how many days you want to have in stock and how many days it takes to get there. And we can tell you how many units you need to order. And you can add this to the cart. And we'll show, I'll just go ahead and do this one. We'll come back to the cart later, right? I'll be like, cool, that one needs to be ordered. You can also see here the product line depth, right? So you have combinations of things at play where it might be low stock and it might be low depth, or it might just be low depth where I'm actually like a little bit, overstocked. If I wanted a 30-day here, I want 14 days. So this is quite a bit overstocked, but I'm saying I want 204, right? This one is a situation that I love. Humans are good at interpreting this. We can take a guess at what you would do. I probably would not order this because of the 37 days on hand. But you might have store SOPs that really say, I want 4. I want 4 and I need a sativa in here. So maybe I'd order 1 strain, right? We want to surface all this information, these ordering rules. And there's always going to be these things on the bubble, right? 80% of it, you can just add to cart. The number's right. It'll tell you how many strains you need. You can go through it. 20% of it could be you said you want 4, but do you really want to throw another strain in there when you got 37 days on hand? If you do, throw 1 case, throw your minimum order, right? If you happen to be ordering from the vendor that carries this brand and you can hit the order minimum, say throw 1 case of a sativa in here. I don't have a sativa in stock. I want that in this brand. That's important. That might be affecting the sales in here. I could dive into there and look at my sativas and look at my run rates here and kind of figure that out and make those decisions. But we want to surface that information, make it as automated as possible, but showcase these times when is it just low stock or is it low depth, because the variety is so important.
Well, let's take a second there.
Yep.
So a thing we hear a lot about this approach is, my management, my boss has a mandate that I need to make sure I have a sativa indica hybrid, or I need to make sure I have the distillate, the diamonds, the whatever the level is. And then they get concerned because they look at the competitor down the street and they say, look, that competitor has a sativa indica hybrid. They get the brands scraping their menus and saying, you're out of stock of the sativa, right? But meanwhile, your math is telling you actually have enough hybrids and indicas. And if your customers come in and they go, oh, I want a sativa, and you're like, we're out of sativas, but we have these sativa dominant hybrids, right? Is that a risk? What would you say in that scenario about layering on some reality? Because I understand buyers have a lot of pressure to try to add variety when perhaps they have enough units overall, just like on the shelves.
I comment at us, remix our TikTok video if you're at the beginning and we were joking about how we're doing like TikTok reels here. Remix this and tell us how you would do the buy. What would your buy be? I'm gonna start posting those. They're gonna be my LinkedIn post about here's the situation. What would your buy be? Everybody chime in with what your buy would be.
Yes.
I'll tell you using our data what my buy would be. Because what I would do, and I love these situations where I can go in here and dive into this and look at the detailed data. So one thing we do, and we'll come into it later, we have a way where you can slice and dice every SKU in your inventory. And I'm going to come into this and showcase why buying SKU by SKU leads to overstocking. If you just use a SKU by SKU view of the universe, don't, is the key there. But one of the things that we do in this screen, which is kind of zooming you into this brand, this subcategory, I'm looking at 1 gram disposable live resin vapes from this brand, right? I have a view of the world. I'm thinking about that slot on my shelf, thinking about physical shelf space. I'm thinking about strategic buying and margins and all these things. So when it flashes that I want 4, but I'm overstocked, it's almost always overbalanced in like a SKU that's not moving, right? So what we're doing here is we're showing you, if there was a suggested order, I'll pull back one that was low stock and we can show like how we tell you which SKUs. We just automatically surface what we think you should buy if it's available. We'll show you all of the inventory you've had recently, so you can have stats about it. And then this discontinue feature, which is where you can flag SKUs that are duds that you don't want to carry anymore, right? And I would say here, you kind of have that problem because take a look at this. I'm looking at my live inventory. I know I've got 2 out of 4. I got indica and a hybrid here. And I've got one that's moving less than a day. And I got 35 days on hand of it, right? So the reason that my total availability is 37 days on hand and I'm double my target is because the SKU's overstocked. I last order, I wanted 4. I brought in a mixture. This one didn't work out, right? So what do I do with that? I might want to deep dive. And the deep dive here, I just clicked this view products. I just like zoomed into the universe of, you can see we automatically populated this set of SKUs, everything I've carried. Now
Went into the bucket.
Yeah, now I'm looking at the bucket. I've got way more data than I had when I was looking at the product line. I can see my discounts. I can see my margins. I can see my units per day. I can see how many days it was out of stock. This is a really important number that's hard for people to grab. We can do this at the product line level. We can do this at the SKU level. So you can see is like, was the sales suffering because it was really only in stock for 2 days in the look back period, right? I could, if I was populating batch, it seems like some of these don't have batches loaded, but we do populate THC percentages based on package level. There's all kinds of data in here. Going back to like the spreadsheet junkies in the world, like you can configure this view, you can freeze columns. You can see I've got like my name and my brand frozen there, so I can do my scrolls. I can turn on all kinds of different columns for different work I'm doing, looking at different aging buckets, all of that, right? So what I'm going to do through here, and I'm just going to do my in stock. So I'm using filters on the left here to even further. It zoomed into the bucket. It preset my filters. Now I can slice and dice it even more. You can see, price and inventory and age costs and all kinds of things in here. I just did in stock because I just want to see what I've got in stock there. I'm looking at multiple stores. So before I was zoomed into one store, so I'm seeing more SKUs here. So I'm kind of just doing like a multi-store comparison to say, is it just indicas that don't move well? So what's interesting here is I only have the indicas and the hybrids in stock, right? And like these hybrids or these indicas are selling, a sixth as much as this hybrid. So what I would do, just to show you like the live work in here, right, is I would go through here and I would be like, you know what? I'm just going to keep one of these and I'm going to discontinue. Like, I'll keep maybe my top selling, but I'm just going to actually discontinue these. I'm going to say, I'm going to put these on sale. I'm going to get them out the door, right? I'm going to bundle them. Cash in hand is better than cash on your shelves that is rotting and aging. Those units are worth less every day that they sit, right? You are going to discount them. You are going to age them out. Those products aren't going to be as good. They're not going to be as fresh. You're going to see it in customer loyalty. Like we talk a lot about, I hear people talk about expiration dates. If you've talked to me, you know that like that's a trigger word for me because expiration dates are so far in the future. We're talking about trying to move inventory every 14 days. We're talking about like 30 days max in here. Maybe you do some big buys strategically, like what's going on in Michigan and some of these states, you end up with 60 days, 90 days. None of these should bump up against an expiration date, right? Like we're expiration dates are so far on the future. And a pre-roll, a prepackaged eighth sitting on your shelf. I'm here in Colorado. That eighth sits on your shelf for 3 months. It is dust, right? We have no humidity in the state. But all of these, the pre-rolls don't burn as well. The THC decarboxylates into CBN and customers come back and say, that made me sleepy. All these things happen. The product every day is kind of like a ticking time bomb of cash eroding. So I'm going to discontinue these, which is going to say, I never want to order these again. This strain didn't work for me. I'm going to go trigger my SOP to market 20% off, get it out there, get some cash back. Even if I sold it at cost, I'm better off taking that money and buying a sativa or another hybrid from this brand if I want to keep this brand going, right? So I discontinued this product and now my view looks a little different, right? I made a decision in here and I made a decision that tells me every time I'm looking at this product line, I've got this context now. And we hear buyers talk about these kind of things. They're taking notes. They've got spreadsheets. They've got Apple Notes up. They're like writing down SKUs from 6 months ago that didn't work out. We want you to be able to make these decisions in the platform. We want you to be able to flag these. And then if you share these with brands in the future to help you make an order, dabbling in that vendor managed inventory concept, the brand can get this data. I would ideally like these SKUs. Here's what I already have in stock, and here's what I don't want you to send me. So that's what this discontinued list is, right? So what I was saying out of this buy is this is weighted more by this SKU. I chose to discontinue this SKU. I'm going to go put it on sale, and I'm going to go buy one case of a sativa in here and see how that goes, right? And I didn't lose that much money, and I optimized my inventory before it aged because I used predicted days on hand. This is not an aged product, right? You can see down here, these are not aged products, but I'm not seeing what I want out of this. I want to get ahead of it before I have to discount it, really far, discontinue it, do my buy on that. So that's like one of your on the bubble kind of buys, right? So I'm just going to go back through here and zoom back out to a couple. We're going to do a couple things here and just get a couple things into the cart. And I want to show you how to work with these product lines from an ordering flow. And there's so much to cover in here. You know, I started off by saying I want to talk about the replenish. That's new. That's recency bias. We're talking about product lines in here, but I really want everybody to understand the whole purpose of this is how do you work with rotational strain-based products? And even this could be a 2-hour session. And I encourage you to hit us up and get a 2-hour session going over it. So I saw can I make my portrait?
You're a little big when we're looking at the SKU level or
Get out
the
of here.
names of
I
the
was
product
playing
line.
with that thing. Let's just get, nobody needs to look at me. You guys,
I mean, dude, it was fancy and you're pretty, but yeah.
I think just really quickly go back and do that, show them that flow again, where so on the product lines, if we select a quick brand and we want to build an order, we want to build an order off the product line itself from the
Yep.
product line screen.
Yep.
You know,
There's a couple things here. If I was ordering all the pre-rolls that I needed to restock, I've got my restock only in here, so you can see that these have the low stock flag. I could just add all to cart, and that's all my pre-rolls, right? Most people are kind of ordering more vendor brand based, right? So I'm going to go through here and select all of my my rhythm that's low stock and add all that to the cart, right? Just to get, you know, every one of these product lines. The reason you're seeing some multiples here is I have this separated by store because I'm comparing performance by store. If I toggle this off, you'll just see the buckets flattened across all stores with stats that are brand wide, which is really cool. So almost every view in Happy Buyers, you can get a store by store view. You can zoom into a single store. Or if you're like ordering into centralized distribution and looking at, you know, just like looking at all your stores as a whole within a single state, we have a lot of buyers that do that, right? So what I end up here is I got a bunch of things in a cart. You can see some that I was adding. Let's pretend that I'm ordering from a vendor that carries all 3 of these brands, all 4 of these brands here. And what I'm able to do now is start dialing in the order. So what we have done is a ton of work for you where you have preset your desired days on hand for these buckets, how long it takes that vendor to get that order to the store. That math is good. You do not want to pad these. If you have less than the lead time on hand, the math is different because a lot of people will just pad because that's what's easy in a spreadsheet. So they'll just order 17 days on hand. But if you were out of stock, when the truck shows up, you end up with 17 days on hand. If you want 14 days on hand, we'll do the math for you. So when the truck shows up, there's 14 days. You're defining your full stocked shelf day of kind of order receipt, right? Now on the cart, I'm giving you the key information for how you want to dial in an order, right? The robots have gathered things for you. They've done the math for you. Now the humans come into play. And at your fingertips, you've got your run rates, you've got your current inventory, you've got the all important how many days that's going to last you. You've got your inputs that you plugged in. That was kind of your set it and forget it inputs. You've got our math on how many units to get you up to that par level of 14 days. You've got case sizes in here that have been input. And then you got the rounded up math, right? You can see a couple of these don't have case sizes in here. So these are ones where maybe I do just want to plug this in and say, these case size, I'm making up like a case size of like 100 for these, just to round it up. I could see a couple of these that I might go through and say, this one, maybe I just want to take off the order, right? Like, I've got enough of those. Like, I've already got, well, I have none of those in stock, but I'm not selling enough. This run rate is kind of small. Like, I'm probably going to go back and discontinue that. Maybe I'll discontinue the whole product line. So I love like dialing that in, right? I'm looking at the data now that I've got it stacked here. I can you see these little override symbols where like I could put in, I'm smarter than the computer. I could say, you know what? I think we are going to sell. We got a deal coming up on these carts. I actually want an extra week of supply. Cool, done. You can plug in your inputs here. Vendor could tell you that the lead time is now a week. And I know that right now for this one order. Cool, I can update that in the cart and let the math flow. Or I could just say, I want 100 of these. I've got some knowledge you don't. I'm talking to the vendor. I just got a discount for buying a certain quantity. I want to plug that in, right? We also show you that depth. You can customize your fields in here of how you want to see the cart. So you can see that as you're ordering. And then as you're walking through this, you can one click pop up that exact set of ordering guidelines that I mentioned, which is what would my suggested order be? What do I have in inventory, if anything? And what are my discontinued? And then share all of this data with the brand so they can make that decision. Or maybe you're looking at a live menu, maybe you're looking at a PDF menu and you're figuring out, the pre-packed ounces that you want. You can walk through all that data here in one click, really get at that product line. I'm doing my Twisted Buds single 1 gram pre-rolls. I've got all the data I would need to make that order. The ideal order, all my current in stock, so I don't double up on strains I've got. My split, again, these stores just don't like sativas, so maybe I lean those over. Maybe those hybrids are all sativas. We know these words are slightly meaningless, but customers still buy them. It's simple. So maybe I want to set that up and lean in and pick up a couple strains that are sativa in here. We give it all at your fingertips so that you can dial this in. And like I said, we could spend hours on this. I do want to pull out. We've got a lot of questions. I know there's a lot of chat going on. I know Andrew and Brad want to, steer us into live discussion. I'll keep the screen share up. Thanks for telling me my big head was in the way, and we'll keep it out of the way. And happy to walk through this and leverage real data as we go through the Q&A.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Danny. While we're honestly live on this screen, a couple of questions that did come up. One is just reiterating, you can set these days on hand targets and lead time targets by brand, by product line, and you can also then live edit them while you're in it. You could also bulk set some targets. And then I think it's an interesting question. There's also an active question about the case sizes, right?
Yep.
So right now you do have to set them manually, but you can also bulk set them, right? So you can basically type in a search query like, Jeter babies, right? And then you can multi-select and then set those case sizes. The reason why we have to do it that way is because the upstream data in terms of like connecting to all the various upstream systems is very fractured. As we know, like half the time when you're trying to deal with what the vendor actually has available, it's a spreadsheet that they've sent you, right? Some states have it better than others in terms of consistency of folks like Apex and LeafLink. But at the moment, we make it very easy to just like really quickly like multi-select and then set all the case sizes in bulk. So I know there were two questions just like I wanted to hit really quickly while you're on that screen. Other than that, like as folks have additional questions, pop them into the Q&A chat. There's one that just popped up. I think, Danny, this is a good one to clarify. How many new SKUs, so products we haven't seen before is what I believe that's referencing, are added to an order? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
It's
so
how are new SKUs added to an order?
Oh, how?
Yep.
How are
Yeah.
new SKUs?
Yep.
Yeah, how are products that you have that haven't been in that are new to this? Well, first let's do how are products that are new to the store added in, and then how are products that don't exist yet that the store's never seen added in?
Yeah. So very, very good question. One interesting thing about product lines, because product lines, you define the rules, right? Rhythm, flour, half ounces, right? We're using your catalog data to do that. New SKUs that come in will automatically be in this product lines. When you're ordering strain-based product, this is the really powerful thing of like, you're not manually grouping products. You're not manually tagging products. When your catalog set up, point of sale data comes in, new SKUs checked in today, your current inventory and your predicted days on hand will go up. If you brought in a strain we've never seen before, it'll be added. It'll be in this product line. All the product line data will reflect those SKUs automatically without any additional input from the user, right? The other questions are really about how do I order? How do I pick a strain that I've never seen before that's not in the point of sale, right? I'll give a two-part answer to this. One is in a lot of those cases, you're sharing this level of data with a vendor and the vendor's kicking you back a draft order that says, hey, I see, let me pull up one of these that had some depth on it, right? I see you don't have any, I see that you want 3 additional strains. You don't have any hybrids in here. I can see what's in your inventory. I can see what you're asking for. I'll provide, to meet the gap of your 1,200 units you're going to order, I'm going to give you 2 indicas and a sativa. And they're going to suggest that back because you've given them the rule set. And the truth is on these strains, right? You're looking at THC percentage on these menus. You're looking at strain names. Strain names have become so meaningless that a lot of times the vendor knows better because you're going to go through here and say, I'd ideally like this snozberry infused, but they don't have snozberries anymore, right? They swapped it out with whatever other berries. I do like the name snozberries. That's a good strain name, but it still doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know what that tastes like. I mean, it tastes like snozberries, as Willy Wonka told us. But they might not have that strain. They may have replaced it. They may have just literally renamed it, right? We always do the joke. I heard it 10 years ago that it's all just Blue Dream anyways. We're just renaming strains, right? The cultivar situation is out of control. So you can share it with the vendor and have the vendor kind of come in there. Or if you're placing a wholesale marketplace, you've got these ordering parameters up as you click through. So when you're going through that fog cutter menu, you're looking at their 2-pack 1 grams. You've got all the information on the similar strains, and you're placing that order, through the email. Send me this if you've got it. The 2-part to that answer is we're never stopping here. If you're a user of this platform, or if you saw this platform 2 months ago, you're probably seeing 10 features and screens you didn't see 2 months ago. We do have some order changes coming in where you can add line items in here to break out what your order is. So you could say, like, I've got the menu up. We're even playing with, like, upload the PDF, upload the Google Sheet from the brand, and let us inspect the SKUs in there, and then we can populate it in there, and you can select and throw those into the cart. So we do have some updates in there for getting into entering in the SKUs, building this out as like a full-fledged order. That's work that we're working on this year as well. But we do see a lot of this is like, you've got the menu up in one tab, you've got your ordering lists here, rules, or you're just sharing this with the brand, and the brand is kind of drafting you back what they suggest you carry because you've given them all the important context. And I'll just say there, I'll take a stab at VMI. We unravel a lot of VMI problems for customers that have used VMI solutions because the data is wrong. There's not a lot of context. It's simplified run rates. They're not doing it by product line. They're not doing it with the product line depth. You can do vendor managed inventory if you have this information and these 3 buckets of data. That's enough to give the brand context to get a good suggested order. If you are not sharing that, if your VMI tools do not have that, you're going to have a bad time. And the brand's going to push strains you've already got, strains that didn't perform. They're going to overload your depth. They're going to overload your sub buckets in the depth of the indica sativa hybrid. You have to give them accurate information and all the context if you want them to be able to make good decisions for your store.
A lot of retailers feel reticent to ever share this kind of data with their brands, but I can tell you from the many customers we've worked with who are the kind to share this data to their brands, they benefit greatly, as well as the brands. But it's a win-win situation, and it saves them time and heartache and helps dial in on both sides where those orders are, so that they know it's going to be consistent and they're going to get paid on time. Those are the 2 outcomes both sides want the most, right? So yeah, it couldn't be understated how important it is to share that data and work with your brands on that.
Allison's got one more question in here that I think is really, really good. And then we'll probably wrap it up. And what I would say is, there's so much to talk about. Talk to us, reach out, get a call together with me and Andrew. We will walk through this in depth. Allison's question on how often product lines are updated. So we run all those product line reports every morning. And every hour, if we check your inventory, if a SKU comes in and matches a product line, it comes into that product line and updates its current inventory and days on hand every hour. And we can automatically scan for new product lines. You carry 3 new brands that you just put an order on. Our AI will scan for those product lines and suggest those product lines to you. Then you can dial them in and deploy them. So our AI will discover new product lines automatically on a regular cadence there as brands come in or new product formats come in that you aren't carrying. So we try to make it as automated as possible while also giving you that final last decision on, I want to dial this in by price tier and not brand, or I want to tweak that product line a little bit.
Awesome. And the last thing I'll
Yeah.
say, I know folks are kind of a bit, is just like, you know, this is all built from the 400 odd locations that we work with right now. And we're here, free trial, easy to use. Scan the QR code, go to book a demo. Anyone who wants, we get you set up, no cost implementation. We run it, and then we go from there. So thank you all for taking the time. Thanks.
Also, if you
Danny.
have any further questions, you can reach out to Danny or Andrew directly using their emails listed here. RIP their inbox. But you know, feel free to just chat us up if you need to. You know, if you want to, go ahead and scan the QR code or just email us straight up.
Awesome.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for
Thanks,
joining.
everybody.
See you next time.